have no, we're just audio today.
Just audio today.
So make sure your mics are on.
Okay. Good morning, welcome to the audio portion of the Corrections and Code Enforcement Committee this morning. We will be joined by and supervised by our two members of the City Council for this committee, which are Councilman Hockett and Councilman Schramm. Also with us are the Finance Officer, the Public Safety Commissioner. We have with us the Supervisor of the Winter Jail Facility, and we have the Code Enforcement Officer. And so with that, Justin.
Okay, I will, we'll go ahead and start with corrections, and I will turn that over to Jeff.
We'll start with the inmate population. Today's count's 163, month average is 162, and the year average is 161. We began the project on HC3. They started yesterday, and you guys can pass that around and see the progress.
Did insurance get in touch with you?
Yep.
Perfect. I gave him your direct
Claims and
line.
Associates, I
Yes.
forget the gentleman's name, but he stopped down, I think it was last week, and took some photographs and said, proceed. And then we found a local company, which was nice. We did call the one in Wagner. They couldn't fit us into their schedule, and then good deal working out, finding someone locally to do it, so that was good too.
Jeff, can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
I don't know what HC3 is.
Yeah, we discussed it after the last meeting, the damage that was done in the holding cell.
Okay,
And
thank you.
you're about to see photos
Okay,
where
on that door
it may
frame?
refresh, yes. sir.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you very
Yep,
much.
yep.
Okay.
So,
Now
yeah,
we
so a
know.
local
I know what it is.
outfit began yesterday.
speak in code.
You'll see the progress that they made, knocking out the block and,
When you say local, Jeff, I'm sorry, like from Winter?
yep.
There's a masonry in Winter.
Yeah, part of their business is, and I did not know that either, is that they do masonry, yeah.
Wonderful.
Yep.
That's good to know.
Yeah, it was very good. And where we got the information was Micah, our maintenance gentleman, was down at one of the local hardware stores and just asked, hey, is there a list of individual, and they gave that name and
That's what I
called,
thought,
and
too.
I think they definitely put us up in their list of projects and prioritized us.
Very good.
So we're very, very appreciative that they got in as quickly as they did. I really thought this was gonna be something that carried much farther into the new year in terms of being able to get it back and operational. So really appreciate them getting in there. They started yesterday. They're hoping that it could be, best case scenario would be, it would be operational by next week. The overall cost, I'm waiting for the bill. They gave me a rough estimate. The project itself would have been double in price if they would have had to replace that door. They were able to save the door and are in the process of tying that back in with the frame and the bricks, so.
Are they
Good
putting
news.
new
Good.
brick in, or
Yeah,
are
yeah,
they
that's
pouring
where
it
it's,
solid?
that's right, that's where they have it this morning when I looked on camera. They have all the new brick, not physically in its location, but it's down there in that room.
But it'll be
And they're gonna stuff it with concrete
individual
and
pieces of
rebar.
brick?
Yep, that's what I understand.
It's gonna be rebarred and
Yep.
concrete, so that won't happen again.
That's
So
right.
that's what I like.
They're
Oh,
gonna-
you know that? They're gonna fill the brick with concrete? Okay.
And rebar. And
rebar.
rebar too, I understand.
The other one had no rebar?
Nothing. It was nothing. It bare.
Now I remember this
bare empty
conversation.
block.
Yeah.
Bare empty
When you
block.
I think
hire
that's as much
inmates
as
to
we
build
wanna
your
say on
jail,
camera.
That's
this
right.
is what you get. Yep.
Your comment turned out to be quite true.
Okay, very
So
good.
that's the update there.
I have one more question. I'm so sorry for
Yeah.
the financial aspect.
Yep.
Are you wanting to pay for it out of 2023? It will be a reimbursement from insurance, so we can very easily, if everyone's okay with waiting till the 2nd of January, and then we can do a resolution once we get the check from insurance, minus deductibles, obviously, then we can put that money back into your,
I would,
Budget,
my position would be whatever's the easiest for the city, or what council potentially wants to do. I don't, Yeah, I'm
I
not.
like that answer.
Yeah, I think I think the reason I say that is it's not like the generator project that's going to be, and again, I'm just throwing a ballpark, but over $30,000 by the time you do both phases of it. You know, I'm thinking this will be
Timeline
hopefully a
wise,
few thousand, you know.
2024 will be easier.
Okay, then I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Yep.
Money in, money out, so whatever. you know.
Right, it's
Yeah.
just, as far as council would have to pass a resolution
Yes.
to, and I wouldn't even receipt the money till 2024 from
I
our
know for
insurance, because
them as
we
well.
know how insurance can be sometimes, so
So-
2024 would be easier.
Are we better off just to pay for this rather than turning it into insurance, since it is coming in at so much lower than we thought? that
I
was-
don't, let's look into that after. Either way, everything will have to, now that it's already submitted to insurance and blah, 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 because not having had that conversation, we'll have that off camera
Okay.
as to what their recommendation was to you on different things too, so.
Okay.
And I would want to chat with them what the deductible would be for something like this,
Sure.
so.
Yeah, if it saves time, energy, just, yeah, whatever's easiest is
Yeah.
good with me. And then the only thing that's not listed here, you guys will see it in your packets. We have a couple resignations, so we'll be advertising once we get beyond Monday's meeting. And
From the
get after-
jail itself?
Yeah,
Oh, man.
yeah. So, we'll be back at it, try to get after, hire a couple people. Other than that, questions? Yeah, I didn't have a ton for you guys today.
Do we know any reasons, can we talk about them, why they would be resigning from the jail? Is there a commonality here of why we're losing people?
Without too much specificity, one is making a career change, the other was leaving the state. So I think actually
South
both
Dakota's
very
issue.
happy. Yeah, both very
Yeah.
happy with,
Yep.
circumstances, life.
Things happen.
That's right. That's kind of the reasoning for the departure.
It's kind of the nature of the business, Joe.
It is,
you know.
In and out.
We're gonna have,
Come and go.
we're gonna have available employment there every day.
So yeah, both can say good things about the ones leaving. They're, good employees, and
Yep,
I hate to see them go, but
yes.
But if they ever decide to come back, I'm pretty strong,
Yeah.
chance they
Yeah, if they
still
would come
have
back,
that.
you'll
Yeah.
let them- okay,
100%.
good.
Yep. Oh, and I don't, the one had indicated hoping to retain, we have to advertise, so no guarantee, but is interested in part-time. The one staying local. Would still like to keep a foot in the door, so.
Don't you always have a part-time open?
Right, we have one right now, because it was vacated by someone last month that went to full-time.
Sure. And I think with our part-time, if I remember correctly, Mr. Jensen, is it only seasonal, or did we throw part-time in there too, that is pretty much just always open as long as they have the availability in
As-
their budget?
As long as they have a slot available and room in their budget, it's open.
Okay,
yeah.
so then the only thing you'd have to do then is just make sure that HR is notified, and then HR will notify me, and we'll
Correct.
put it in. Same as you had someone move from part-time to full-time
Okay.
last month, we would just put that into the council minutes, so-and-so was essentially hired as part-time at this wage. Now, if they are above starting wage though, council has to approve that if you want to
Still,
keep them at the
yes.
same wage.
I do have a question on that, and that's more personnel.
Yep, that's fine.
Either after or later.
We can talk later.
Yeah, because there is one that it'll make sense when we discuss it.
Yep.
Okay, yep.
Any other questions?
Okay, any questions on the financials?
So they are confusing. I'm just gonna, I know you said to wait till
Yeah,
I
go
ask, but
ahead.
I'm just gonna,
Just tell me the eye openers.
they're over 100%, so we're good. So it only shows that they're at 85% for the year. That's
revenues.
false news. Only because
Fake news.
they're,
I want the real stuff.
they're at 100% of their real revenues. over 100% of their real revenues for 2023. The reason it shows 85% is because you used 900,000 of
Yeah,
cash.
we transferred out, yeah.
And I can't in the 2023, and I've been working with Encode and trying to get that worked out for next year, and where we only have one fund that's doing it, so it won't be as big a deal. But so that we can show that this is receipted in now as revenue, so that it shows that they have that 900,000. They have it, you can look at your financial statement, see that they've got the cash to support that. I just can't show it as a receipted revenue. So we've already billed out. So that's the other thing. You're technically a month behind in your billing for the jail, because
Yes.
you get November's numbers, we bill it out in December. And then now with our new system that we have, our accounts receivable system, the second we get it from them, we enter it into our system and it's considered a revenue at that point in time. Doesn't hit cash, but it shows as a revenue, so you'll see those revenues on there. The other thing that's confusing is when we set up the new AR system, they told me I had to create a new revenue code for anything AR. That was also false news. So, so for 2023, there's 2 lines for transport. There's a regular transport and an AR transport. You have to add those 2 lines together. For prisoner care, there's a regular prisoner care and an AR prisoner care. You have to add those 2 lines together. For 2024, that's gone. It's been fixed.
Yay.
But there was just some confusion. We had it the other day with payroll too. It's just winter's a little different on how we do things, and so you get a blanket answer, and sometimes it's not always the right answer, but it's fixed, so,
Okay.
Fake news.
yeah, fake news.
So we're really gonna have an accrual-based system then instead of cash-based?
We are accrual already. We're
Okay.
not cash. We are accrual. So
Okay.
that was the other thing Jeff was actually asking me earlier. He goes, well, what about my revenues for December's prisoner care? Where does that go? Well, during the whole annual report and our annual audit, technically I have to know all of those numbers, and then we kind of move them back into the previous year just for accounting purposes, but it'll show as revenue in the 2024 year, so each year we have to move some of those numbers back just to make it match up for auditing purposes. So you still have 12 months worth of revenue that show in every calendar year, but when you look at your annual report, you'll see there's always those adjustments at the end of the year for outstanding invoices. The only one we don't do that for would be 911, again, specialty fund, so it has a different set of rules, number one. Number two, we don't bill that out, the state tells you what it is, and the state is sometimes 2-3 months behind in telling you what the numbers were. So because of that specialty fund, we don't consider that back and forth.
Okay.
Clear as mud, right?
Yes.
I'm still looking for the 85%.
I don't know how you.
On the
keep all
revenue,
these-
it shows
all these things straight.
86.76.
Oh, that we're calling 85?
Yeah,
Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and then that's because of the 900,000 in there that is showing negative rather than seeing it as a revenue, so. If you take that out of there, then we're actually at like 102% or something like that.
okay.
The only other revenues they'll be receiving in would be their daily commissary, which can range anywhere. I just received 4 checks yesterday. They had a Sunday that was like $86, and then they had another check that was $900. So it just depends on how hungry or
Sunday's not full commissary. Only
correct.
day of the week that it's not full commissary.
or chatty they are because of phone cards and different things like
Yeah.
that. So they will continue to get commissary in, and they won't receive their interest until the end of the month as well. So there's a little more revenue coming in for them, but they're already over 100% on their real revenues, so that's good news.
Yeah.
Chelsea?
Okay, we talked about this a little bit yesterday in ordinance meeting, but just wanted to give Joe an update. We have a use of major recreational vehicles on a residential lot, essentially. Allowing camping on a residential lot within that old ordinance where it says occasional use may be allowed. It doesn't specify who allows it, it doesn't specify how long. So Paul and I are working on some changes to that. I took it to my Planning and Zoning Commission on Monday night. And their suggestion, I loved their suggestion, 72 hours is a
Do
freebie.
what
You
you
get to
want,
do what
yeah.
you want. After 72 hours and up to 14 days, you can come get a permit from me. I think we decided on $25 for that permit.
$25. So it's the same thing as getting a building permit
Yep.
from the standpoint of cost.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, nothing after 14 days. You can go find a camp spot, if you wanna stay longer than 14 days. So that is kinda where we're going with that, and I think it'll come
It's on,
through.
yeah, it'll be in your packet this weekend, and up for first reading on Monday.
Oh, okay, all right.
So,
Yeah, I'm trying to think up situations, but that would probably cover most of the scenarios I'm coming up with.
Well, and one of
People to do
one of their
that.
thought processes, when they talked about somebody that wants to stay longer than 2 weeks, we have campgrounds
Yes,
that are available, and if you wanna make, rather than your backyard or your side yard, go ahead and get a campground if you wanted to stay a month,
yep.
you know. I thought that made good sense.
So will this take care of that situation on 7th Street where they skirted the camper?
yes. I mean, after 2 weeks anyway.
Well, to me, that looks like it's totally against every regulation we have. Is it
Except
not?
it's not, because occasional use may be allowed as currently written in the ordinance, so.
Yeah.
So,
It's
You know,
vague.
skirt around there and use it for 3 days.
I don't know how winners survive for 90 years, you know,
Agreed.
with all these ordinances that are out of whack.
we're working on them, aren't we, Paul?
One at a time,
Yeah.
one at a time.
One at a time.
The council back in the 40s, and maybe common sense was different in the 40s, I
Tell you
don't know,
what.
but man, some
Well.
of these ordinances from the 40s.
You compare our world today from the 40s
Yeah.
to
You
what
are
we have
not
today,
wrong.
just the
Right.
world today, and it's totally different.
Yep.
Oh, and people in the
Rules
forties would
that
never
applied
dream
in the
of.
40s don't apply
Yeah,
to society today.
That's
So
right.
we have to be constantly updating.
the world is different,
Mm-hmm.
completely. Yep.
Any other questions on that one?
No,
Okay, number 2, there's gonna be a letter sent, to those that got courtesy notice on the hay bales. Paul and I are gonna draft a letter after it's been canvassed and our new ordinance is passed through, just explaining that those are null and void at this point, and
Yep.
what the new ordinance
that's
is.
a good way to handle
So,
it. Everybody knows.
yep.
And I haven't even talked with Chelsea about this, but it seems to me that to help her out, my suggestion is going to be that after she and I work on this letter that goes out to everybody that had received those, then she and I can review the individual circumstances to see if any of them need a notice under the new ordinance.
Yep.
If there are any, it'll be very few.
Before you send a letter out, you'll do that.
I
You'll
will.
vet
Yeah.
that before, okay.
Yes. I want to do that because I don't want to tell them, never mind, you're fine.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden, 2 days later, get a letter that
That's
says,
right.
now under the new ordinance, you have a problem here.
Right.
So I'm thinking
That's good.
exactly that, Joe, that we
Perfect.
will make that
Yes.
determination so that we can send a different letter to those few.
Yep, yep.
But it'll be a very small number. I'm very
I bet
convinced
it will
of
be
that.
very small.
Yeah, it will.
I think 3.
Oh,
can think of
wow.
three.
That is small. Wow.
And I do have one more deal, into the budget here. You'll see on annual memberships, I am 1,510%
Oh,
over.
my goodness.
What happened here is my iWorks software, my computer software, that renewal came up and it was in the middle of all the hay bale nonsense. I mean, crisis. And so I actually had Holly look into what Cody had charged it out last year, and apparently those funds have moved. So I just need to talk with Holly and get it down to the bottom
Software.
one, the
Which
computer
one? Oh,
system software. Just get that switched.
Oh,
That's just a simple,
Yeah,
that's not a
that'll
problem.
make a big difference.
So just wanted there to be a note there that I'm not
You said it got-
1,000%
Okay.
over.
It's just a posting error or something?
Posting here.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep.
So I do have something for you, and I haven't had the chance to even have this conversation with either of you, so I apologize. I learned this yesterday. So I had an SDML meeting yesterday afternoon. We went over some of the items that are going to be in legislation this spring. There is, right now, they're calling it the Governor's Right to Farm Bill. If it goes through, it will take a lot of local control away when it comes to supporting farms within city limits, i.e. allowing livestock in city limits, potentially hay bales we would have no say
Yeah,
over.
that would be,
Is she really looking for a fight?
I'm not gonna answer that because we are
My
live streaming.
goodness.
But, it's not 100% clear on how she truly wants it read. It was presented to her and she said that she would support a portion of it, but ultimately, it's my understanding with our conversation yesterday, SDML does not support this because it does take local control away.
Right.
So I actually have a whole list of bills that SDML will support, won't support, all of those different things, but this is one that I, just because of what we just went through, I feel really does,
Buckle up.
but it will be a situation for winter. Because we are trying to remain those local code enforcement controls, and unfortunately, it might take some of it away, and so we need to just keep an eye on it. I haven't read the bill yet, I just know that it's out there, and they're actually behind this year, that's what David was saying yesterday. There's not a lot to read on some of these bills yet, because they just, I don't know if it's just that, usually they have it ready, because, you know, legislation starts in a month.
yeah, it's right around the
But,
corner.
there's not a lot, it's more scribbled still, so it'll just be something we have to continue to pay attention on and all of that, so. There's a lot coming up in legislation. There's gonna be a lot of focus on county and city relations too. Just,
Okay.
I don't know that it's going to be good. And I, you know, part of me says, I totally understand where the counties are coming from, they wanna find more revenue. Counties are broke. I get that wholeheartedly. That is frustrating. And then they hear, on the other hand, the state has excess revenue. Why can't the state help the counties or help us figure it out? So I get where they're coming from. And if we were in the same boat, we would have the same problems, or we would be talking the same things.
But why should their problem be a municipal city problem? If their
So-
lack of funding,
Uh-huh.
it is a problem. I have coffee every
Yep.
morning with the commissioner.
Yep.
It's tough. And they're looking for other forms of revenue.
Yep.
But why should that encumber us? Why should that then become our problem? I
Right.
think that's where we draw the line and say, no, you know, we feel bad for you if we can enhance this or that.
'Cause
but
ultimately, that's what the
as
state is
far as-
telling them.
You're talking about taking money from us and giving to them. No, I mean, that's
Yeah.
wrong.
So we had a
We're two different
very
governmental entities.
good conversation. Well, first of all, as a politician, so, you know, it's kind of one-sided. But a good conversation, Casey Crabtree is who spoke to us last night. There were county and city officials there. And, you know, we've got this sunset clause, 3 years, I think it is, and we're already 1 year in on the sales tax. Obviously, there's the new ballot measure that's coming out for this November election about even removing more sales tax, which no one in legislation actually really supports, it sounds like. The bill is coming from outside the state. But what they would love to see is something a little bit different. Maybe we lower property taxes, but yet give the counties a sales tax on top of it. Well, when you lower property taxes, you're not just, well, you're gonna affect the counties that are already struggling, but then you're affecting your school districts, your townships, and your cities too. So is that fair that everybody now needs to suffer?
See,
You know, so
that's-
it's so hard to figure out where that line is. So everyone was almost in agreement last night from city and county officials that, great, if you want to lower property taxes, fantastic, but throw a sales tax on there for the county. If that's what's going to help everybody, because they do get a decent chunk of the property taxes, and yes, it will affect the rest of us, but not to the same extent it would affect the counties. So cut one, but increase another, and then, but the difference is you're helping your local people by cutting property taxes. If you add a sales tax, everyone and their dog is paying that sales tax, because sales tax is the most fair tax, because everybody's paying it. So if you really want to help your local people, cut a local tax, and then include something that would, of course, you know,
But the
legislation
politicians will
says,
tell you that sales tax is the most regressive
yeah,
tax you can have because it affects the poor people in their percentage of revenue or their percentage of spendable money worse than it affects the
but it's
rich
not a
people.
chunk it all
But
at
when they
once.
take it off of the groceries, that really
Agreed.
evens that
I
out.
don't disagree with that,
Yeah.
but really and truly, you know, it is important to have good relations between the county and the city.
Oh, absolutely.
Agreed.
And I think if the state's gonna pursue this, all they're gonna do is make it harder for those of us that have good relations with our counties to maintain that good relation.
Correct.
Because I'm not gonna listen to the fact that the county doesn't have any money, because guess what? What did we just see for revenues on our jail? That's not a city function to operate a prison, to operate a jail.
Yep.
That's the county's function. And
why-
they chose, and I mean chose, not to.
That's why for us it's an enterprise.
I understand, and the county could have the same
Well, they could.
thing, but they chose not to. So let us get along like we're supposed to get along and keep the damn outsiders out of it. You know, I definitely support a county sales tax, whether it's 0.5% or 1%, no different than,
They talked to the governor about that very same thing.
Yep.
And she says, I will not support it.
no, and the establishment
down
will
right
not, because they have a limit, and I don't know if the number is 8 or 9. They can only charge a total of X percentage of sales tax. So if they give one to the county, they're gonna have to take, because I think they're at the maximum now.
They are.
I
think
might be
that's
wrong
right.
on that.
I think you're right.
But if they are at the maximum and they decide the county is entitled to a 0.5% sales tax, guess what? They gotta take it out of somewhere else.
So they
Either
asked
the
that
state
question last
or the
night.
city or
Yeah.
the entertainment tax has to go away in order to give at 0.5% to the county.
So that
But-
question came up very specifically. If the state was having a surplus to the point where they could knock off 0.3% off your taxes, your sales tax, because that's what they did, why couldn't they have given that 0.3% over to the county?
They could.
And ultimately, we were told, well, it's not the state's problem that the counties are suffering. We didn't feel it was fair to choose one local government over another, so we'll just let the taxpayers keep it.
Oh, God. Joe, do you remember back in the, I'm thinking it's probably in the mid to late 80s, there was a push by some of the folks, the pointy head folks from the university, looking to replace a lot of the county level local control and create districts in the state of South Dakota.
Supermax counties is what they call them.
Yeah.
back then.
You remember
And
that?
they have about 8 or 10 down here. We have one executive.
We would have been in
outfit that
Mitchell.
runs 8, 10 counties, crying out loud.
Mhm.
It sounds really good on paper, but
Oh.
I mean, I'll tell you what, that would be, imagine that.
It was
Imagine.
amazing.
Well, and isn't it amazing that, what counties do we have utilizing our jail system?
Yeah.
10, 10, 12.
Yeah.
Those same counties that they wanted to put into a district, but they wanted to control it, and
Exactly right.
that's where the issue is. Take all the control away from the dumb people.
Yeah,
You
give
know.
it to us, we're so much smarter than they are.
Yeah, yep.
Yep.
Because
You
if
guys
you live in
realize
a community, you're
that
smarter.
that sentiment has not gone away, right? No,
I don't-
because
I
that
don't
was the
believe it
exact
ever
same
will.
thing that was coming up with these regional jail. When we went and talked to the
Yes.
task force, that
Yes.
was the exact same idea.
Yep.
Is now wherever these regional jails are, they will tell what counties, what jail you will use.
Yeah, they wanted to create compact agreements because other states have, they wanted to follow some other states' models where a cluster of counties, you have a compact agreement, you put in the funds to try to build an institution, and then you all use that within that
Yep.
perimeter, yeah.
You're mandated to use that.
Wow.
But then it's managed by, if state dollars come
Yes.
into it, they get to set rules, regulations,
Yeah.
everything.
So a couple other ones. Stop
Oh,
it.
no.
One is election.
Yeah, stop already.
One is an election law, so ultimately they're trying to determine when you can and cannot put up signs for political advertising for elections on private property. Technically, on public property, you're not supposed to have them.
No.
On private property, and I said, okay, so they would only allow them up from the date absentee ballots start, and then you have to take them down within 2 days. There's no penalty currently on this current bill that they're writing, so SDML is gonna ask for a penalty on that too. But then I said, well, who gets to enforce that then? Local. So,
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
so there's that. Woohoo! And then, and now I just had a complete brain lapse of what, so on the county side too, and this is coming from the northeast part of the state, there was some land annexed into a city that the only way to the new housing development was on a county road. And the county said, well, it's your annexed land, you need to do this, the city wouldn't speak to them, all these different things. So now there's a bill out there that says if you annex land in, you now have to annex that
Maintain
county
the
road
road.
and maintain that county road.
Maintain the road.
Well, that's not necessarily a benefit to the county individuals either, because then the city could just say, okay, well, we're just gonna put plain old asphalt on there, and then you can't have heavy trucks, and how you gonna get to your other locations? And so there's that one too. I don't know if that'll go through. It's just one of those things that, yeah, there's a lot out there that really does affect local municipalities this year. So there's the summer study that the counties did, that right now the counties collect all the property tax and then they divvy it out to the school, the township, whatever. So the state does the same thing for sales tax, and the state charges a % on sales tax, an administrative fee, so to speak. So the counties are saying, well, maybe we can charge an administrative fee to the cities and the schools and all of that. And, well, but you're not changing, it's still the same amount of money, now
Same
you're just
money
wanting
pot.
more of it.
You're
So
just taking
it's,
from us and giving to them.
right, and I
from the
get
schools.
that they are trying to come up with ways to make money. I'm not dissing on them for that. It's just, but there's no more, like, you're trying to take more money from what's already there. So find a new source of money type of deal is kind of where I sit with it, but
In Tripp County, though, they hire I call her a budget enhancer lady with a clipboard, walking around. She was at my house a month ago, and she didn't have my storage shed on there, so my taxes will be going up. So they're finding new revenue around the county. She has
actually requested
up
for
there,
county
I think,
building
over $1 million
permits.
or something.
Yeah.
But she's well worth her money, but,
Yeah.
I mean,
But
they're looking for every little way.
They are.
But there again, Chandra, the county keeps refusing to require building permits, and yet they say, we don't have any revenue. Well,
Now, Tripp County
let's be a
commissioners
little
are
bit
thinking
smart.
about it.
I'm sorry?
They are thinking about
Yeah,
it this
until
time.
until it blew up.
Well, did it blow up
3
that
days ago,
bad?
and I
Yeah.
got 5,000 phone calls against county zoning, and they're
Right.
afraid.
But does everybody, again,
But I want more revenue, but I
Correct.
don't want the strings that come with it.
do you know how
That
much,
really is part of the problem, Joe.
but education is the
That's
key,
that's
Brad.
a good way to
Huh?
Do you know, it's education. Do you know how much education went into our city election? Between Chelsea's office and my office, people calling about the ballot.
Yep.
Mr. Jensen, I'm sure, got a ton of phone calls. I hope that you as council members, there was so much education that went into that. So are people educated in the county? Are they just hearing building permits and, whoo, no, I don't want to do that? You know, Jake from DGR was
Yes,
here yesterday, goes,
that's-
man, to
that's the
replace the
reaction.
sink, I have to have a building permit in whatever county he's in, Lincoln County or whatever. That's not what Janice is asking for. She wants to know if there's any major remodel outside and any new buildings, a shed. Why would you not? That's why Chelsea submits building permits to her in the city limits.
Yep.
So that she can see, okay, I need to go inspect this one place. I don't believe Janice is asking for internal building permits at this point in time. I think she's willing to,
If you open a
Work that
door,
out.
they're looking at it, if you open a door for building permits, you're opening a door for
Sure.
county zoning. And that's what's got, oh my
Yep.
gosh.
Do you know how much the building permits would benefit the city of Winter if the county did it though? Because of our airport more than anything? Because right now, if somebody wants to build just outside of city limits, there is nothing stopping them, and then we would have to change our entire air flight pattern. Because they don't have to report to anybody what they're building. So, and we've
But
had that issue.
there are height restrictions.
Yeah.
There are, but what if
We've
they've
got
already
some-
built it? Then we have to change our air flight pattern. There's only so much that can happen. The
I think the
has
FAA
some-
gets involved in that, though. I
They
don't think
can,
that's
but they
our
have to take it to
responsibility.
court, Brad.
Pardon me?
They can, but then they have to take it to court. So the
that's
problem,
a
so we
five-year
had this
process.
conversation because we heard rumor of something coming up and a couple different things coming up. And if, Dave is very, very good. If he sees a crane somewhere within that flight pattern, he's calling right away. What do you guys know about this? I don't know. You'll have to go and talk to them. When Elevate was building, he was concerned they were gonna put another grain bin in that would be too tall, which would have had to change our flight pattern. So FAA is gonna sit there and say, is it easier to change your flight pattern, or do we wanna go to court for years to try to get it to change and get them to take that building down? So yes, FAA does have some standards, but that doesn't mean that they're not gonna come in and say, you need to change your flight pattern.
Because
that's
didn't
the
Country
fastest.
Pride deal with that when they were building their new grain bins out
I
here
don't
on
know the answer to
on the
that.
development deal?
You would think so.
And FAA came in and said, you cannot build one this tall. And I believe, we didn't have to change our flight pattern for that.
Yeah.
And that's where if we keep the
If
FAA
they
notified.
cooperate,
Huh?
if we know and keep
Yeah.
FAA in line, not in line, but in the know, and if that company cooperates, now, just because that company said, okay, yeah, we get what you're saying, this is a benefit, sure, we'll move this 10 feet over so that we don't have to do this, or we'll keep it 10 feet lower, whatever we gotta do, great. But if they say, no, you don't get to tell me, there's no zoning, there's no building permits, no nothing, then FAA has to take them to court. We've been lucky so far. We have had to change flight patterns one other time, Dave said, because of something getting built too big. But, it happens. So it's a benefit to not have to change them because then you have to put out a whole NOTAM and inform people and all this stuff. But it's not quite as simple as the FAA coming in and saying, no, you can't do that. Okay, if you say so, and then, just change your patterns, so. Because then this company might come in and say, well, I've already spent millions on my blueprints. I'm not gonna listen to you, I'm gonna do what I want. And so, yeah. Anyways, pay attention to legislation is
Yes,
what I'm saying, because Chelsea doesn't want local taken away from her. Because that would be a pain. And I agree, we need to work with our counties, Brad. I
No, we do.
wholeheartedly
yes.
agree.
I do too, I do too.
Yep.
Sorry to take over your meeting, I
Oh,
just,
you're good. Any other questions? Okay.
We're good. Thank you, folks. And thank you for listening.